So, thank you again for having me. I hope you all had already some good ice cream. At Ben & Jerry's, we start every presentation, no matter what the topic is, with this chart of our three-part mission statement. All the work we're seeing today on sustainability, on social responsibility, it hasn't been there when Ben, Jerry, and the board wrote this chart and coined the phrase of linked prosperity. Today, this mission statement is still exactly as it was back then, and creates the same energy and inspiration in the company than it did back in 1988. It's a constrained model. You have to look at your product, your economic, and your social all at the same time. You cannot trade things off. You have to look at them in parallel. This is how we take decisions at Ben & Jerry's. Our business model is the concept of linked prosperity. What does that mean? Normal businesses, they buy cheap, they try to sell expensive, and in between, they stretch the profit. We re-looked at the entire value chain and asked ourselves, what is our role in all of this? And our role is to link communities in order to create prosperities in all of those communities. So we're working with our farming community to create prosperity in their communities. And we then link them back into the communities where we live and where we work in order to create prosperity there. We then engage with the communities where we sell our products. And we recognize our products are outrageously expensive. And we don't only want those people who can buy a Ben & Jerry's to feel good that they did something for a fair trade farmer in Africa. We want to engage and tackle the topics and issues that are relevant in the communities where we sell. So how do we do this? We do this through emotional connection. We bring in a fun element. Ben & Jerry's brings in a fun element to sometimes very serious topics. And this is how we've been campaigning for 35 years on a very broad spectrum of topics. From fair trade farming, GMO labeling, marriage equality, and for some 10 years now on climate change and climate justice. And this brings me to the topic that I wanted to talk to you today. I was asked to present to you a case study, and I was asked to bring some ice cream. So the good news is the ice cream is there. Some of you already had it. There's plenty of it, so no matter how boring the day will be, it's gonna be all right. We have ice cream there. On the case study, it didn't feel right to stand here, look at the past, whilst at a topic that is so important to our hearts, like climate change, there's such an urgency to act. So I'm standing here today to invite you to join what I believe is going to be the biggest and most important campaign of our generation. I will present you the perspective of an ice cream company in this and hope to show you the role an ice cream company can play in challenging climate change. And I hope this will inspire all of you to find your role in the battle against climate change and join in this movement. We all know the world needs quite a bit of care these days. The dilemma is that all the people here in this room, we're hearing a lot about climate change, but we're not really feeling any effects. It's people in Global South, the most vulnerable countries, people like our fair trade farmers who are suffering most. They are feeling the immediate effect of climate change with increasing temperatures, extreme weather conditions like droughts and floods. I'm sure there's no climate change deniers in this room, but let's have a look at some of the key facts of climate change. This chart shows us the average temperature on Earth for the last 130 years. If we look at it, we see that since the industrialization on this planet, temperature has increased at a speed that this planet has not seen for a couple of 100,000 years. So climate change is reality. The good thing is, we still can act if we act now. If we limit the increase in temperature below 2 degrees, we still can prevent the most traumatic effects of climate change. So 2 degrees, or something like you could call it the bottom line for the planet. So you all know what's causing climate change is mainly the 3 biggest greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide. The biggest and most important of them, carbon dioxide, 87% of the carbon dioxide emissions are coming from burning fossil fuels. So there's no question. You don't need to be a scientist. You can be an ice cream guy like me to tell this is a man-made issue. So we have caused it, but we can also do something about it. Some people argue fossil fuels, they will end somewhere this century. Yes, they might, but then we will not be able to live on this planet anymore. This bubble here, the so-called carbon bubble, represents all the currently known fossil fuel reserves on Earth. It's an equivalent of 2,700 gigatons of CO2. If we want to limit global warming at 2 degrees, we can only burn 565 worth of equivalents of carbon dioxide. If we continue to burn at the rate we're burning today, we will end at the 2 degrees somewhere between 12 and 14 years. This shows you we don't have time to act, we need to act now. And the amazing thing is, all the technologies are there. It now needs courageous politicians, courageous business people, and courageous individuals to act and not wait for others to lead the path. So, what is the role of an ice cream company in all of this? I'm an ice cream guy. I'm not a scientist. But as ice cream guys, we are pretty sure that, like ice cream, ice caps are best if they're kept frozen. Because if you don't keep them frozen, this is what's going to happen.
This is what happens when ice cream is just 2 degrees warmer than it should be. For Ben & Jerry's, it's a mess. For the planet, it's a metaphor. Because a 2-degree warming of our planet's climate would have an equally dramatic, though much more significant, impact. But we can prevent it. If we take action and demand that governments, policymakers, and business leaders do what it takes to stay below 2 degrees, we can reverse the trend of climate change. By acting now, we'll create innovative solutions that keep our planet, and those who live on it, thriving. Because while a 2-degree change may not seem like much, the truth is, it means the world to us. Join the global climate movement and take action now at benjerry.com/climate.
So, what are we doing with that? We are acting in our campaign on 3 pillars. The first pillar is that we need to get our homework done. We want to be walking the talk, but we need to get our house in order. The second is we want to use the capabilities in mobilizing people specifically to broaden the climate movement, to make it more diverse and get more people engaged and ask for actions, but also take actions themselves. And the third is we want to localize this topic and we want to speak up publicly and openly on the concrete actions that need to be taken. So we're doing our homework, we checked our hoof print, and we know exactly where our impact on the climate is in Ben & Jerry's. So we conducted a very in-depth life cycle analysis, and we're taking actions based on this. So we're working on the freezers that we have at the retailers to get lower emissions. We're working on the transport, but we're also working on the biggest pie of our impact, which is the dairy production and the methane emissions, especially in our dairy supply chain. We're working with scientists and our farmers together to significantly reduce methane over the next couple of years, and we want to share this knowledge with the broader farming community. Based on this understanding of our impact, we're setting ourselves progressive goals. We are working against the targets of the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change, which is the climate body in the world, basically, from a scientific point of view. And we said our minimum targets have to be what those experts recommend for the world. So the minimum targets are a reduction of our emissions by 2025 of 20% and 2050 of 80%. The first steps can be done very immediate through some technology improvements. In the future, this takes a system change and really big and courageous steps. So the second thing that we can bring to the party is mobilizing people, building movements. We have shown over the last couple of years how we can move people. This is at one of our bus tours in Germany, where we scoop some ice cream, but we also educate people. In this example, for example, for the Thumbs Up for Fair Trade campaign. And we want to use this capability to bring more people into this movement, and climate change movement, and to really make this a broad movement so that our decision leaders see that the whole world, that all people in society are really trying to want to change something. How do we do this? I mentioned in the beginning, it's emotional connection. We trust in the people that are following us, and we give them basically a lot of trust, and they in return give something back. Sometimes this trust or love might hurt a little bit, but this image here shows you also the responsibility we have to not mess things up. We want to walk this campaign together with our followers, together with the fans out there. And what are we doing concretely? We're working with our VAS, the Global Campaigning Network, and we want to bring another 500,000 signatures into their 100% clean petition to, at the end of the year, at the Climate Summit in Paris, deliver 3 million signatures for this petition to world leaders. The Climate Summit in Paris is a bit of a big milestone this year, and I'm not going to deep this today into the details, how important it is, and which role it plays. But on the way to Paris, we want to interact with a lot of people, and we want to get more and more people to join this movement and mobilize them to speak up. I talked about general climate change campaigning, mobilizing people to join petitions, but the really hard and tough decisions need to be taken on a local ground. And Ben & Jerry's is getting engaged in the really relevant topics on a local ground. We're doing advocacy work to tackle the big issues while we're not getting where we need to go in climate change. This, for example, in Germany, would be an exit from coal. There's no way that we meet our climate targets if we don't exit coal. In the UK, for example, we recently supported the fracking, an anti-fracking movement with the What the Frack campaign. In Canada, this might be something on tar sands. But we are speaking up, we're taking a position publicly, and want to engage in this debate and broaden again the voices that are shouting for a change. I've been challenged a lot over the last couple of months on the legitimacy of corporations to do this. Corporations today, they have a political own opinion, but it's expressed very much behind closed doors in Berlin, in Brussels, but not very much publicly. And I don't think we have a legitimacy. I think we have a duty to call this out publicly. And we will speak up and take this to the politicians publicly, and we want to speak about the things that really matter on this. I'm an ice cream guy. I have not a lot of knowledge about all this campaigning thing in the past. When I came here, I actually had to look up what campaigning stands for. And it said, in Oxford Dictionary, an organized course of action to achieve a goal. So, let's all have some ice cream afterwards, but then let's get organized to achieve 100% clean energy by 2050. I urge you to join the movement, talk to us afterwards, and become part of the global climate movement. Thank you very much.